folks, hope you're okay. Welcome to this week's Training Tip Tuesday and Happy New Year. It is January 2020 and we are starting the year off with a bang. So this week we're going to be looking at the Sumo Deadlift and how to perform the Sumo Deadlift, and we're going to give you all the techniques, the movement classifications, the rep ranges and everything you should be looking out for, including some common errors. So I'm going to get changed, I'm going to head over to the gym. I just want to say a massive thank you for checking out the video from the beginning, and I hope you enjoy the content. So I'll see you over at the gym and then I'll talk to you at the end. So let's get to it. So we are starting off with the movement classifications, and initially the biggest one we're going to look at is hip extension here, and it's where the hips are extending back behind the body. So the hamstring, glutes and the erectors of the lower back are going to all be playing a part here. So we're typically looking, and if you checked out the video of the straight leg deadlifts or the Romanian deadlifts, you'll see that it's very similar in terms of movement pattern, and the only thing difference will be is the kind of knee involvement with this one. So the second one we've got is knee extension. It's primarily looking at the quads, and it is where the foot is moving away from the midline of the body. So essentially we're moving the foot away from the center, and it's going to be primarily using the quads. Opposite to this is knee flexion, and it's predominantly done on the kind of eccentric portion of the movement where the knee is bending. So the hamstrings are going to be taking some tension there. They will be still working, to be fair, during the hip extension. So it's a great way of building the hamstrings up. Now I did want to kind of side note that the shoulder flexion will play a part in this movement as we're lowering down, because the arm and the hand is moving away from the midline of the body, although it's not really going to be like a big exercise move or big movement. We're primarily going to look at shoulder extension being the more dominant movement with the shoulder joint. Okay, and it's simply because as we stand up we're bringing the bar back towards the hips, and that's going to be done a lot through the traps and the back of the shoulder. So next we've got scapular retraction, and this is all about engaging the lats, engaging the traps, and making sure that we're keeping the posture nice and tight. So we're pinching the shoulder blades and we're holding everything tight there. And it's also done with scapular depression as well. So depression simply is pushing the shoulder blades down. So as we're getting set up, and I'll talk about this in a minute, we're actually going to be pushing the shoulder blades together and down and holding them in place as much as possible. Finally, I just wanted to discuss breathing. So with this, we're looking at being able to create some intra-abdominal pressure, and that's simply holding pressure in the rib cage. So we're pushing the chest up and we're holding the lungs and the stomach nice and tight, and we're being able to hold our posture a lot better through this. So you might think that my posture is a little poor, and I think a lot of it's down to the shoulder position because my arm is behind my back. But yeah, we're looking at pushing the rib cage up and holding the stomach tight. So just a little bit of a quick one with mobility warm-up, and I'll always recommend kind of just opening out the hips, opening up the hamstrings and getting some dynamic movements in, and I have sped this clip up. You can probably tell by the guy in the background doing lateral raises, or front raises should I say. And so always here kind of make sure that you're doing a lunge forward, sit back, get the hamstrings, and I like this position here where you open out at 45 degrees. Again, you're warming up the hip flexors and you're loosening them off. You're loosening off your hamstrings when you sit back here, and then when you open the hips out in a second, you'll see that you're opening out the inside of the groin as well. So this position here, my left groin is really opening out. You can see me place my hand on the side, and you're going to feel that the hip joint is really opening. So moving on to technique and rep ranges. In terms of technique, we're looking for the feet to be slightly wider than hip width. The toes can be slightly turned out, and I think this really allows us to open the hips out a lot more. We're going to take the hands about shoulder width. You can go slightly closer, you can go slightly wider depending on what you need to and what you prefer. Sometimes it will all be dependent upon limb length. We're probably going to have the bar about an inch away from the shins. You can have it a little bit closer, you could have it a little bit further depending on, again, limb length and kind of how your body feels in space. The knees will be lower than the hips because, again, like I said, hip extension exercise, we're not trying to squat the weight, and we're going to be driving the hips forward, standing up to the top and then lowering back down. So you can see here the bar typically just finishes just shy of the hip joint, and we're just standing up straight and then back down. So you'll see from this angle now that the bar is staying relatively close to the body. My hands are staying pretty much in line with my shoulders on the way up and on the way down, and I'm just simply focusing on keeping my knees lower than my hips and driving my hips forward. Okay, it's primarily going to be targeting the glutes and the hamstrings with this exercise, as well as the erectors on the lower back, and you will just find that you get more glute involvement with this variation compared to the conventional deadlift. Okay, we're seeing here that I'm pushing my shoulder blades down in towards my glutes, trying to get them towards my back pocket, so that's the scapular depression and the retraction, bringing them in. The other one that I would comment on, and you may see it in this next clip, is keeping the chin tucked. It's very common that people will try and deadlift with their chin up, and they'll be trying to look up towards the ceiling to try and help them get the weight up, where in actual fact we want to try and keep every part of the spine connected. The chin was a little bit high on that one, but you'll see it gets a little bit flatter here. Yeah, so we're always looking to try and keep the chin relatively tucked, keep it nice and flat. A quick kind of side note here, that when we stand up, we're literally looking to drive the hips forward to the top position as opposed to overextending or hyperextending of the back. We're focusing primarily on the glutes and the hamstrings here with this exercise as opposed to the lower back. The lower back will work anyway, so any form of kind of overextending or hyperextending is actually just going to create undue pressure on the back that we don't need. Okay, now when you start to get towards your kind of top weight, you're going to find that the pressure in the back is going to increase, and that's okay. Just be very wary that you're maintaining form, again keeping the back relatively straight. I read a good post, it was by Dr. Caleb Burgess on Instagram, and he was talking about the ranges of the spine through the deadlift, and what was interesting is kind of perfect form, perfect spinal position doesn't exist because it's all relative, and we should be maintaining the spinal kind of position within a certain range, and you'll see here it does kind of hit that range barrier. FYI, I am using straps for this set. When you get towards your top sets, you can use straps, chalk, whatever you need to. In terms of rep ranges, and I know it's kind of short-sighted now, but I would always recommend staying within maybe 3 to 5, no more than 8 reps for this exercise. Probably 2 to 3, 4, 5 sets is a good one to get your volume in, because you're going to be lifting very heavy. Okay, so make sure you're taking it nice and controlled and keeping that spine within those ranges. The common errors we tend to see, and the first one I'm going to come to, is poor posture. Okay, because we were talking about it anyway, it's poor posture, and you'll see here that as I start to pick the bar up, it's massively rounding through the thoracic spine, and I'm not controlling my shoulder blades or controlling my posture at all. Okay, so I'm driving up through not really much through the legs, it's predominantly picking it up through the lower back, and that's just going to put a lot of pressure through the lower back that we don't need. Okay, so the big thing is always try and pull the shoulder blades in, retract them and depress them, and keep the tension in the spine nice and controlled. The second one is probably squatting the weight with the sumo deadlift, and what I mean by this is the hips are getting a lot lower towards the knees, the spine is staying very upright, and we're more squatting than hinging. And you'll find that the bar is staying a little further away from the body than it needs to, and you'll actually be putting a lot of pressure through the lower back again that you don't need. So try and make sure that everything's in line, and also the chin being tucked is probably a big error that we see as well. So there you have it, folks. That's this week's Training Tip Tuesday, and the first one of the new year. So I hope you enjoyed it. Go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below anything that you would like to see next week or in future episodes, and I'll do my best to get back to you and comment with a reply as well, as let you know what we're going to be doing. I do want to just let people know that from next Monday, so you've literally only got a week to do this if you're interested. I am looking for 10 golfers who would be interested in gaining 10 to 15 yards, certainly 15 yards of distance on their game. Okay, it's going to be tested over a 60-day program. This is a program that I am putting together that I want to use 10 people as a case study for, and because it's going to be a case study, I want to do a massive discount on the program. So instead of paying the full price, people are going to be getting around 60% off. So if it's something you're interested in, all you need to do is send me a message or send me an email at the email address below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can and give you all the details of the program. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, share and comment on the video, and I will see you all next week in Training Tip Tuesday if I don't speak to you before because you sent me a message about the program. Peace out and see you next week.